What's up guys, Kartak here, and today I'm here with another Digimon deck profile. Today we'll be going over the Royal Knights deck profile that came out in BT-13. So without further ado, let's get right into the deck. The deck is super fun to play. It is like a countdown deck where you just kind of wait, stall out until you can get your win con. But there's a lot of things you can do with this deck, and it doesn't actually brick as hard as I thought it would. But there's still a lot of restrictions around this deck. So for the first card we're running the Yggdrasil 7d6. So right here, this card doesn't let you Digivolve, but it lets you play Royal Knights for cost less. So once per turn, you can play a Royal Knight. If you play a Royal Knight, you can have its cost reduced by 4, and then for every other card in this card's evolution source, you can reduce it by 1 more. And then during your main phase, you open the top card of your Digitama deck, and then you put the card underneath as a source, as well as all your Royal Knights. And the last skill is an inherit skill, which lets you play Royal Knight option cards for pretty much 1 less. You get 1 memory back. So ideally, you want to use this with Purge, because by the time you have 3 Tamas underneath it, you'll be playing Purge for 3 cost. So yeah, let's get right into the main deck also. So for the level 7s, we're running 4 Omnimon. I see a lot of people running this at either 3 or 4. I like to run this at 4 because certainly he is your win con, so you want to get him as soon as possible. But in addition to that, he's also a Gaia Force. So on play, you can either choose to delete one of your opponent's Digimon, or you can choose one of each different name Royal Knight from your sources, and then you can play them out, and they all get Rush. So this is your win con. You want to have, however many security left how many security left you have, your opponent has left, and then you want to just rush and attack them. So we're running 4 of these. Of course, again, if you don't have the win con ready set up, but your opponent has a big Digimon on the board that is a threat, you can definitely slap this out and just kill it. So pretty good. Next, we're running 3 of the new BT-13 Gallantmon, or Dukemon, whatever you want to call it. So basically what it does is it also reduces play costs for every 5 cards you have in your opponent and your own trash. You reduce it by 2. So you can play this out for pretty cheap by himself. And it has Rush, so you can get some pot shots in before your win con. And it has an on attack, on play and evolution skill, which lets you delete something 6k or less. And if you couldn't just delete something 6k or less, you can delete something 13k or higher. So the range for the deletion is very weird. If it made it 12k, it would be a lot better, but 13k is okay. Which is why if you're mainly using this for removal, you might as well use the Omnimon instead. Mainly the Gallantmon is just here to take pot shots. Next, we're running 1 of the BT-12 Gallantmon. This card is here to get over some cards that are running security options. So on attack, if you can delete something 6k or less. If you don't delete something 6k or less, then you'll be able to trash your opponent's top security. So there's a lot of Marcus decks out there now, and this card helps you bypass the Marcus and security. So it's good for that. So most of the time we only need 1 because you want to either use it for your win con, or you want to use it in conjunction with your Purge. So yeah. So we're running 1 of those. Next, for the main starters of the deck, we're running 7. We're running the Magnamon, BT-13 Magnamon. So when it leaves the battle area, you can draw 1, and it's a blocker, so it's pretty good. Other effect that doesn't really matter for this deck, but you just want that draw 1, and you want to have a low cost play. Next, we're also running the other starter, which is Dynasmon. This card kind of gets the deck rolling. When you play it, you can search the top 4 cards of your deck, and you can grab 2 Royal Knights, and then trash the rest. Trashing your other cards is also good because you can set up for your Gallantmon. And on your turn, if another Royal Knight is played, you can delete everything that is level 4 or less. So it's got a bit of removal as well. So it's not bad. Next, we are running 3 of the Alphamon. This is another card that can help stop your opponent. So what it does is on play, for this deck, I'll just be going over the on play. I'll just be saying on play because you can't Digivolve. On play, you can put a Royal Knight into your source, and then, or X anybody, but we're not running any of those. You can put a Royal Knight back into your source, discard source, and then until the end of your opponent's turn, all cards that are 10 cost or above can't attack the player. So this is to stop your opponent from attacking. Of course, they can still get some small attacks in, but it'll stop some big attacks like those OTK attacks in. So not bad. And the second effect is, if this card, once per turn, if this card would leave the field, you can put this card, or leave the field by effect. You can put this a card underneath this card source back to your bottom deck, and this card stays. So it's pretty good. This also works with your Drizzle. So you can have it stay in for one turn so you can get one more attack in. So I think it's pretty good. Next, we are going to be running 4 of the Leopardmon. So Leopardmon has a main ability instead of on-play ability, which lets you play a Royal Knight from your hand for 4 cost less. So ideally you want to combo it with your Magnamon or Dynasmon. Dynasmon it'll still be kind of expensive because you'll be playing for 6, but your Magnamon you'll be playing for 3, which is pretty cheap. So it's pretty good. But if you play the Dynasmon, it'll give the Dynasmon blocking as well, so you can kind of stall out your game that way. Alright, so next we're going to be playing 3 Gankumon. So Gankumon has blocker, which is pretty important as well, and it has an on-play effect of when you may play one card with Royal Knight in its trait from the Digivolution cards from a breeding area without paying its cost, and then you can't play Gankumon or Omnimon because that would be pretty good. But yeah, this lets you put another body on the board, which either can be a blocker, or you can have your Royal Knight, which sets up for more delays and stuff. And then if you want, it will delay your opponent, not set up your purge. But yeah, you can play another Digimon, or you can build up your board with Leopardmon, and then just play another Magnamon from your hand or something. So there's a lot of useful things that you can use this card. But main problem with this card is that it is a 13 cost, so it'll come in a bit later, which is why we're running 3 instead of 4. But he is pretty good. He's one of the better Royal Knights for this deck. And so blockers are very important for this deck, as you guys can see, because you kind of want to stall it out. Next, we're going to be running 2 Lord Knightmons, which just helps you grab a Royal Knight back to your hand. And on your opponent's turn, if they are attacking, for every Royal Knights you have, you can get +1 memory back. So it's also kind of a floodgate card, but it is once per turn, so you kind of want to use this when you have more Royal Knights on the board. Alright, next, so we're running 2 All-Force Digimon. So this is on play. You can strip the top 2 sources from your opponent's Digimon for every Royal Knight you have in play. So this is another removal card, because the second effect is when you would play a Royal Knight trait card, you can return one of your opponent's Digimon with no Digivolution cards to the hand. So this is a bounce effect. So if your opponent has some cards that stop you from deleting them, this is another way you can use to bounce them instead. But of course, there's a lot of cards that protect you from both. But it's nice to have some options. Next, we're running 2 Jesmon. This helps you clear out some smaller Digimon. It deletes a total of 6,000 DP on your opponent's board, and then for every other Digimon you have on the board, you get to increase the cap by 2, so it's not bad. And then on both turns, this card gets 1,000 power for every other Royal Knight or Sistermon you have on the board. So, yep. Next, we're also running 2 Craniamon. This is a blocker. He's a big, beefy blocker, 13k defense, but he's not as good as Gankumon, so we're running this at 2 instead. But his other effect is it forces your opponent to, on play, you can make this card unaffected by your opponent's Digimon's effects. And then the second effect is at the end of your opponent's turn, you can force one of your opponent's Digimon to attack. So I think he's not as good as Gankumon just because Gankumon has more flexibility in this build, but I still think the effect immunity is pretty good. So we're still running at 2. And last but not least, we're running 1 Examon and 1 Sleepymon. So I don't think this card is too useful for this deck right now, but just mainly because your opponent will take out too many chunks of your security before you can make full use of this effect. So I'm only running him at 1. But we're also running 1 Examon. These will just help you pad out your different names, so you can shove them in with your Megamons and your Purges if you don't have anything else better to shove in, or you just want a different name. But they're okay. The Examon on play lets you rest one of your opponent's Digimon, and then they can't unsuspend during the unsuspend phase. And then the other effect is whenever your opponent's Digimon is suspended, you can either make this card active again or rest another one of your opponent's Digimon. So this card is another stall card. It doesn't have blocker. He doesn't inherently have blocker, so it's not that great for this build. But you can get the blocker if you have the Leopardmon on the board. So yeah. So that's the main Royal Knights we're running. Let's go over the other cards that we're running in this deck. So first, we're running 4 Omegamons. So this card is on play, draw 1, and then on deletion, you can put a Royal Knight from your hand into a Yggdrasil from your raising area. So pretty good. Wish it was 3 cost instead though, but it's level 4, so that's understandable. Next, we are going to be running 2 Sistermon Noir. So this card helps you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, and then you can grab a Royal Knight and then trash the rest, which is kind of useful. And giving your Royal Knights reboot is also very useful because you can use Purge to attack with your Gankumon or whatever blocker you have, and then they'll unsuspend during your unsuspend phase or during your opponent's turn, so you can still use them as blockers. So I think it's pretty useful for that. Next, we're running 2 Sistermon Blanc. So on play, you can draw 1, and it's also a blocker when you have a Royal Knight on the field. So that's more cards to help you stall out your opponent. So pretty good. Next, let's move on to the other cards of the deck. We're running Tamers and options. Next, we're running 2 Koshiros. This deck has a lot of hand problems, so whenever you have something with Purge come out, or you have your Ganmon attack, you can use this to replenish some of your hand. If you want to have bigger numbers instead, you can run the hero, but I think the Koshiro is a little bit more useful for this deck. But yeah, having a memory setter is just nice to have because it'll make your turns last a little bit longer. Because this deck's main problem is getting choked out. You're gonna get choked out a lot if you don't have your starters and stuff. So it's nice to have a little bit more leniency to play your Digimon without outright ending your turn. And last but not least, we're going to be running 4 Purge of the Royal Knights. This card is very key for this deck. Lets you draw 1 and then grab a card from your hand and shove it into your Yggdrasil. And then the ability skill lets you play a Royal Knight from your Yggdrasil without paying its cost, but it won't get the on-play ability, but it will get Rush. So it works really well with Leopardmon. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this deck, guys. It's a very fun deck to play. Of course, there's a lot of problems with this, just mainly because of its inherent style. It is a zoo deck, but it's a zoo deck where your cards will go back into, will go away after at beginning of your turn. So you can't really make most of a lot of these cards to attack, but there are some ways to get past it, like Purge and Alphamon and whatnot. So yeah, it's still really fun to play, but I think it's a little bit predictable. You know, if your opponent has good knowledge of how this deck works, they can play around you before you can get your win con. And yeah, I think that's it for this deck profile, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Of course, there's a lot of cards in this deck, I forgot to mention, that you can run. Any Royal Knights that you have that you think will be useful can also be run. Some people might not want to run this one. They want to run the start deck one instead for some reason. That's totally fine. Some people want to run the Alphamon that stops your opponent, which is also fine. I think that one's a little bit more sacky than this one, so I'm preferring to run this one over the secret Alphamon. That's just me. Yeah, I'll see you guys next time. If you guys want to support the channel, feel free to use the affiliate down below. And yeah, this is Card Haku, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!